welcome back, and happy Thanksgiving. So I was gonna cook a whole meal, I was gonna slave over the stove and everything, but I was just playing Final Fantasy VIII. I was like, I don't really need to do that, so I got some cold cuts at the local farmer's market. Turkey. So have a bite and come relax with me as we talk about Final Fantasy VIII, a story about romance, friendship, and thankfulness. We're beginning on the rest of basically our Final Fantasy journey, as we are with every new episode. This is a little different because it's post 7. Tactics was post 7, but that doesn't really count. See, 7 was so massive right from the beginning that really every game to this day in some way follows in the footsteps and in the shadow of Final Fantasy VII. But no game does that more than 8. Okay, I'm not going to eat this throughout the whole video. I'm just going to... Done. You can keep eating, but I'll be good. See, in a lot of ways, 8 tries to outdo 7. It tries to take 7 to the next level. It tries to do crazy new things that were very ambitious, even though this game had a pretty small development time relative to the others. 7 was so big, they were just like, okay, we gotta do 8 right now, let's do 8. I wouldn't say it tries to copy 7 in some ways. Well, in others. Okay, the main character, Squall, he's Cloud too. Come on, he's Cloud but edgier. If you can believe that, he's way edgier. He's like full on emo. This guy doesn't talk to anybody except himself. Most of the story and most of how he's feeling is only conveyed to the player through parenthesis dialogue, where he's talking to himself in his mind, or basically saying what he should be saying out loud, but he doesn't do that because he's just too cool. You have Renoa, the love interest. This is a romantic story, I wasn't lying about that. Renoa feels like a combination of Aerith and Tifa. So like, yeah, you gave the player a choice in 7, like, yo, you're a cool guy, you get all the ladies, you get a choice. In 8, it's like, no, these two, Renoa and Squall, they are gonna... Really, the game is trying to convince Squall that he actually does like Renoa. And Renoa it's essentially throwing herself at him, and he still doesn't get it. He is that character. He is that dumb, brain dead when it comes to girls. And it's kind of funny, but then it gets really annoying. Once the other characters start getting annoyed with him, so do you. It's a whole thing. You have the rival friend who doesn't do as good as you and therefore doesn't like you anymore, and then he starts hanging out with the bad guy. You know that character. Sasuke, Riku is, I guess, a better example because he comes later. Even like, you know, Riku hangs out with Maleficent and they're like buds. Cypher, the friend character, hangs out with the sorceress who's essentially like a Maleficent purple dress lady who can do magic, and she's evil. It's that whole dynamic. Seen it before. Maybe you haven't seen it before at the time. I don't know. That's just a basic rundown of the characters. You have Zell. He's the goofy sidekick, kind of dumb, but likes to punch things, so he's cool kind of guy. Selphie, who's like the quirky girl who just wants to like do fun things, and yay, and she's like, yay, she claps a lot and stuff. She's that girl. Then you have Quistis, I don't know how to pronounce her name, so I won't do it anymore. But she is a teacher who is also with you on these adventures. That struck me as a little weird. But before we get into any story, I think we just should jump into this gameplay system. It's weird. It's so weird. But I'm just gonna explain it as quickly as I can. MP. Gone. No magic bar. Instead, magic is a consumable thing. Each spell you can draw from enemies. One of the commands. You can either attack or you can draw. Every enemy has a certain amount of spells. You can draw that spell, you'll get a certain amount of consumable spells. So that might be, you might be thinking, oh god, I don't know about that. If I can lose all my magic and not be able to use it, I'll never use it. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but there's a lot of opportunity to get a lot of magic from enemies, from refining items, from finding it in the wild. they make sure you're ready with your spells. That being said, I still barely used magic the whole game. So yeah, you can draw up to like 100 of one spell, and you can get there pretty quick if you're like grinding through it, but I didn't want to do that. Here's the thing with the spells. Not only is that a consumable item you can do, basically, you equip spells to your stats. So your attack, health, defense, anything you think of, you can equip whatever spell that you have, and however many of those spells you have, to the stat, and that boosts the stat. That's how you grow in this game. Yes, there's a leveling system, but I really don't know what it does, because I don't think it affects your stats that much because it's all in the magic. So a little bit confusing. Also, yeah, I'm never gonna use magic. That was the big thing. If you have 100 cure spells on your health, which will boost your health a lot, if you use cure, it goes from 100 to 99. You have less of a boost in that stat now. So it's like, what should I use magic at all? Not really. The consensus online, not really. You don't use magic in this game. It's such a weird concept. You know, there's a lot of nuance to this system that I'm not going into because it's not worth explaining. And it's pretty confusing. A lot of people say it's too confusing, and that's a big reason why they don't like this one, but I'm just like, dude, I just play tactics. I'm okay, I get this. It's like, it's fine with me. There's no equipping, armor, anything like that. 7 like reduced to like 2 or 3 items you can equip. Nothing in 8. No equipping. You can upgrade weapons, which you can do at shops and stuff, and it barely affects you that much. That's it. Any other customization, it's all in the drawing system and the GF system, which we'll talk about. Limit breaks return. They're different though. They're harder to get to, but they're way more interesting. In 7, limit breaks were essentially just a bunch of damage, boom. But in 8, you have a bunch of different things you can do as limit breaks for different characters. They spread it out, made it a lot more interesting. But limit breaks don't just fill a bar over time. Limit breaks only come when you're at your limit, as in you're low on HP. So it's like a desperation move, which is closer to something that was in like 6, I think. Lose track at this point. The way you get them is cool. Like for Zell, the fighting guy, he has to read these magazines where he learns new moves, and he goes like, oh yeah. And his limit break is like, it'll show you all the combos you can do, and you have to mash the buttons correctly in a certain amount of time to do the best combo for the most damage. It's really cool. Renoa has a pet dog. To get more limit break abilities with the dog, you have to select it on the menu, and you will gain experience in that limit break by walking. So you walk the dog to get a stronger dog for your limit break. It's just like, I enjoy that stuff. This whole system, it's kind of, I think the goal was kind of to prevent grinding. Because like I said, leveling up, it doesn't matter too much. You could grind by drawing spells. You can get to like as strong as you can possibly be in the first area just by sitting and drawing spells, getting to 100. Because you're not supposed to be at 100 that early. But the game's not built for you to do that, and yeah, you can break it by doing that if you know what you're doing. If you're starting the game, you don't know what you're doing. So I don't know, it worked for me. A lot of people say, this game's too easy to break. Yeah, but like, for the first half, I don't really know the system yet, so I'm not going to be able to break it. I thought it was pretty good. I like the system. Another way it's anti-grinding is because apparently enemies scale to your level. No matter who you encounter, it averages all of your party's levels, and then that's the strength of the enemy that you will fight. There's so much changed from 7 to 8. It's like you never have to sit there and beat enemies over and over to get levels, because there's no reason to. I'm all for that. I'm all for anti-grinding, even though it's kind of half-assed because yeah, there's grinding related to drawing. Let's move on. It gets to be a little annoying with all these draws because you could have like 9 pages of magic per character, and each spell will be in a different place depending on when you decided to start drawing or anything. So like finding a spell like life. I need life right now. I got a dead guy on the ground. I need to revive him right now. It was on page 3, right? Oh no, Squalls was on page 3. This is on like page 5 with selfie. It's like, it is very stressful under the active time battle system where you are on the clock. You gotta find that spell real quick. I've died a few times because I just couldn't find what I was looking for. Selecting characters in 3D, I mentioned in 7, was really annoying because you couldn't tell where your cursor is. That problem lives on, it's still very annoying. But this time, sometimes spells will start off your cursor where it like needs to be, like life. If you choose life, your cursor will immediately go to the guy who's dead on the ground, but you can't see him because he's like behind the menu. So the arrow's pointing in the right spot, but you can't really see that. Meanwhile, everything else in the battle's going on, you're being attacked or something, and you can't tell what you're seeing. So I'm gonna move the cursor, and I'm like, there it is, but is that pointing to the right guy? I can't tell, I gotta move it back. Guys, why is it that hard? And the most annoying thing, when you're doing a summon and the camera's like in the sky, so you don't know who you're selecting for the next cure or whatever it is, it'll show a menu with the character names, and it'll be really easy to select. And I'm just like, just have that be there at all times. Why do I gotta select them in real time? That's so annoying. Hopefully in 9. Okay, another piece of the battle system, very important, but then we'll be done. GFs, Guardian Forces. They're just called GFs, which I think is kind of funny. These are like the meat and potatoes of your strengths and weaknesses. It gives me mad Persona vibes. Takes place in a school, you're a bunch of classmates, and you go on an adventure, and you find a GF. Your first GF is Ifrit. How do you say Ifrit? the demon fire summon. Basically anybody who was a summon in the past, they could be a GF in this game. You kind of bond with the GF, and their abilities will affect your stats, allow you to equip magic draws to different spots to increase your power. You can assign a spell to your weapon, elemental attack, that sort of thing. But GFs will also give you abilities, like different kinds of abilities you can equip and replace your commands in battle, which is kind of cool, but like, you can't replace attack. So you have 3 abilities: draw, which you're always gonna need to get stronger, magic, to use magic, or GF, which you can use to summon the GF as a big attack. You have to replace one of those. You also have being able to use items as an ability, which would need to replace one of those 3 as well. So it's like at all times you're missing out on something. That stressed me out a lot. Like I was in a pinch and I was just like, oh, if I just had an elixir, if I just had a phoenix down, nobody can use items. I'm screwed. Like that. I don't know how you balance that, because if I had somebody who was able to use items but not a GF, like GFs are the strongest thing you have at your disposal, so like I want those. I don't know what to do. You can also get passive abilities, which could straight up buff you or give you something like low encounter rate, counter attack, mug, so you can steal things. The GF system was really cool, and again, because there's no MP, you can just summon them. You can just keep summoning and summoning and summoning and summoning. So I summoned a lot. I summoned in this game more than any game, period. I am once again asking for a skip animation button. My God. I don't know how many times I summoned in this game. It has to be like over 100 per GF. So many cutscenes. There's the ×3 moving speed thing in this again, that returns. That was nice. But I can't believe how many ports of this game we've had no skip button. Maybe in 9. I guess now's a good time to say, yeah, I played Final Fantasy VIII Remastered, which is essentially the same level of improvement as the 7 port that I played. Why this one is called Remastered? Well, they redid the character models. I think that's like it. It's a basic, solid port. I liked it. A lot of people complain that the character models are not good. They look good. I don't know what you're talking about. So that's the battle system. Oh boy. Whew. Before we move on to story though, I got a question. Would you like to play cards? This is not related to Final Fantasy. I just grabbed what I could. We gotta talk about cards. If you didn't know, this game has a whole minigame that's a big focus in the world of the game. Triple Triad. I Have you heard of it? I did before this, because a little game called Shovel Knight King of Cards was coming out. And everybody said, oh, they're putting a card game in Shovel Knight, that's so cool. It's heavily inspired by that game, Triple Triad. Remember Triple Triad? Yeah, it's like Triple Triad. I had no idea what anybody was talking about, like what's Triple Triad? Well, it's the game from Final Fantasy VIII. It's an interesting little mini game that you have there. You can, at any point, any NPC, there's like a card button. Y on the Switch is the card button. Pressing this button on an NPC will ask them if you would like to play cards. 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, yeah, okay, no matter what's going on. You could be the end of the world, and you'll be like, a game of cards? And they'll be like, ah, all right. You place, and there's 4 quadrants with numbers. And that's like your strength. So if you place another card next to that guy's card that has a higher number next to it, you flip that over, and if it's on your side, and now you have 2 points. And then it keeps going. He flips your card, you flip his card. It's more complicated than that as it goes, but that's the basics. And it's pretty fun and addicting. I like card games. I played this a lot. If you beat a guy, you can collect cards from them and build your deck and get like a really strong deck. But if you lose, they'll take your cards, aka you turn the game off and back on again. It's fun, and it definitely took like too much time away from the main game, I think, just for me, because I pressed that button on every person I could encounter. Maybe they have something rare, I gotta see. Oh my gosh, they have Renoa's dog as a card. I have to get Renoa's dog. So I played them over and over until I got it. You could spend a long time just playing cards, and it's a problem. At a certain point through the game, I was like, okay, this is fun. I mean, I'm gonna keep playing, but like, I've got nothing out of this. In terms of the game, like the actual game, what do cards get you? And it turns out you can refine cards into items, or drawing magic items too. And that's just another way to do that. But there's no like real sustainable reward that you get for doing anything. There's like a couple card related side quests, and you get more cards for doing that. It's just like an endless thing of cards, and you don't get anything for collecting them all. I was never going to try that, but there's like nothing there. It seems like Triple Triad and Final Fantasy VIII are completely separated entities almost, but you're expected to just keep playing over and over, and I did, just because, oh my god, cards, I gotta get cards. And yeah, well, whatever, it's fun. It's a fun thing. I like it. I prefer it over Final Fantasy VII, which had just a lot of weird minigames that didn't quite work. This just focused on one, and it was really good. It's just a little confusing, and there's RNG elements that will throw you off. Like, you can choose your deck that you want to play with, but you might just have to get randomly chosen for you. So like, your enemy could have great cards, and you'll get randomly selected to have the worst cards in your hand, and then you lose. That's stupid. I must say, sure, it came 20 plus years later, but Shovel Knight did it better. That's it. I collected all the cards in Shovel Knight. I wasn't even thinking about doing that in this one. Not having to equip things, that was a problem in 6, a tiny bit of a problem in 7. Guess what? This is awesome. This is one of the things I asked for. In 8, if you want to switch GFs to characters and stuff, one button. There is a switch junctions. That's what it's called. When every magic you draw, every GF you have, basically all your abilities, your whole character, everything you have equipped, there's one button to just transfer all of it to the next guy. Dude, do you know how much that would have changed 6 if they had that? 7, you have to like one by one do the materia, which is a little annoying, but it's doable, and then 8 just completely streamlines it. Oh my god, it took this long, but we did it. You got 1/8. Hopefully that stays in 9. And it's great because this game does the split party thing quite a bit. Again, I don't think that happened in 7, but it's definitely a thing in 6, where you have 3 people go here and 3 people go there. So whenever you switch to the next party, it's easy to just swap them. You don't have to split your equipment out unevenly. You just boop, 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 and you're back. And it's great. The only thing is I feel like it didn't always work. There were a few times where I guess I thought I had everything equipped to one person, so I did that, but then I found out that the other person had something else. And then I went into a battle, and it turns out the person I wanted had nothing equipped. So it's like, if you go into battle without a GF, dude, you can't do anything. You attack, there's no abilities or anything else you can attack. That's it. It's you just need to like stop, because you can't win. You're not gonna be able to win. You can't do anything. That field with no GF. Sorry, we're back. It's nighttime. You know, I had to go have dinner with the family, but it's Thanksgiving today, on this day. I had to share the cold cuts with the rest of them. The character designs in this, such a jump from 7. They look like people in this. I know I played the remaster, so they're HD. It's a very weird remaster because they remastered the models and not the backgrounds and not anything else really. Like, for some reason they did that with this one, but not 7 or 9, but this one. You know how 7 looks, it's the blocky, old render looking things. But for this one, they're like tall, lanky people in and out of the battlefield. I don't know, the art style is weird. It goes for a fantasy, steampunk, future realism thing. Everything is very detailed, like overly detailed. I didn't like the look of the game that much. Especially the overworld is just like kind of empty with flat textures. A lot of things clash, I think is what I'm trying to say. But dude, the cutscenes in this are so good. What the heck? I actually, the first time I watched like a full cutscene, I went and Googled like, wait, they didn't remaster the cutscenes for this, did they? And they didn't. Wow, the cutscenes looked that good on the PS1. I was blown away. Maybe I'm just playing too much old games throughout this year. But like, that looks really good. I thought it was PS2 type stuff. It could have passed for that. Compared to 7, landslide. The cutscenes in this are so great. And they even put them into the gameplay too. You'll be walking around a town, and all of a sudden, a pre-rendered like thing will happen and crash into the building, and it'll be a cutscene, but you're still playing. That's almost like your character's green screened into the cutscene. I'd never seen anything like that in a game before. That part blew me away, like playing on a pre-rendered background was like, whoa. This must have been the best looking game like ever at the time. There's also a lot of personality in the characters. They stay with you, which is new for the series. You know, back in the day, it was just characters would like come out of you to talk to somebody important, and then when they're done, they're like, okay, let's go, and they'll just like absorb back into Cloud or something, and then you'd start walking. In this game, it's a party of 3, and you're always following each other at all times. There's a lot of animation in the characters too, which is not a thing that was in 7. Like 7 characters would like move a little, but in this they're like jumping around, they're doing dances or whatever. There's a lot of cool key moments in the story where characters are actually moving and doing stuff, not in cutscenes, but with the character models in the game. So that was great. Definitely an upgrade from 7. Okay, let's finally get into story. The story is very, very weird. I don't know where to start with it. I'll say the pacing is very strange, very weird. Like, a lot happens, but it mostly happens in like the second half, and the first half is very, very slow. Like I said, your kid's at school, and by the end of it, you know, you're doing end of the world type Final Fantasy stuff. It doesn't really lean into that very well, and certain characters who you're supposed to be like as bonded with at the end don't show up till the middle or something like that. Well, the middle, that's exaggerating it, but just way later. Zell and Selphie, they're your buds, they're your school buddies. And then you have Irvine, who's kind of just gets introduced to you at some point, but then you're like, oh yeah, we're best friends, and we're best friends all the time. And then Renoa, the love interest. Like I said, as soon as she's encountering Squall, she's a little bit like, oh, hi, Squall. And then there are many moments where she's like, she wants to be alone with you, she wants to talk with you, and Squall's like, why would you want to do that? No. And then eventually the friends catch on, and they even set up like a full scene where they try to woo you two together, and it's funny. But again, Squall is a dimwit. and doesn't really act upon anything. It takes a while to get into action. I mean, the first thing you do really is like you're in a classroom and they're like, okay, so there's a lot of basic stuff you gotta learn. Just go on this computer. And you go on the computer and it's just a list, like a tutorial list, which had me flash back to Final Fantasy Tactics, which is not good. That's not a good way to teach you this system, the way the drawing and the GFs work. So that was like a little overwhelming, like, oh no, is this one gonna be rough? But you eventually get it. And it's a lot of walking around the school and talking to different people, and you can leave and you can just leave and you're in the overworld. So not a big reveal or big moment at all like in 7. It's just like you walk out, it's like, doop, here we are. Doop, 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 doop. And there's like only one town you can go to. Your teacher, actually your like school principal headmaster, is Sid. Sid update. We got the Sid update here. He is your headmaster. He's like just a nice normal guy. He doesn't do anything too crazy. I don't feel big about him either way. Like he's not the coolest Sid. He's like a guy with glasses and a vest. Yeah, he's alright. Now usually you associate Sid with airship stuff. He's always the guy who, in some way, he's connected with making the airship and allowing you to fly around the world. This is a game that's hard to talk about without spoilers. Like I said, it takes a while to get into things, but everything that you get into is a spoiler, like a reveal. So I'm sorry, we're jumping into the spoiler section. Before I do that, I know what I've explained about the story is really lame. So if this is your first impression, then just know that the story picks up. There is some cool stuff. It's a little confusing. In my opinion, it's not as confusing as 7. 7 is like, what is going on? 8 just has a lot of weird rules, but you can get into it. You can understand it, which is a nice thing. I wanted to get in spoilers because I was talking about Sid. At one point, you're talking with Sid, the school becomes a spaceship. And you're moving around, and it's the slowest thing because it's a giant school. No, it's slow, and with the 3 times speed thing, it's not that much faster. So like most of the game, you're on that school flying around. You're just flying around in the school, and it can't go over mountains because it's literally a school. And I'm just waiting this whole time. Okay, is this like our air travel for this one? Is that what we're doing for the whole game? But you do get a nice, really cool spaceship. Not until the very end of the game. The Ragnarok is it's a spaceship. It's really cool and it's super fast. I'm telling you, it's like the last thing you get in this game. That's really lame. I usually don't do a lot of side stuff until I get the airship, because I know it'll just make everything so much easier. I can just go wherever I want. But like, I'm talking about, we're going to the final boss. Now we have the airship. Do I just do all the side stuff and then kill the final boss, or do I just like say whatever, I'm done, and do it? That was very lame. The story holds a lot to the chest. It takes too long to get into things, and even when it gets into things, it doesn't give you everything. So you're like, what are we at this school? We're training to be like warriors. Why? Who is the sorceress? Why is she such just like this evil thing that we've never dealt with until now? Renoa's not part of the school. She's like a rich girl in a big city who just comes with you because she wants to kill the sorceress. And it very quickly becomes like, it doesn't matter, I'm doing this because you guys are my friends. It's like, dude, we just kind of met you. Same with Irvine. A lot of underdevelopedness in the characters in this character-focused romance story. You'll find out big things out of nowhere. Like if you don't ask certain characters about things, you just won't know them. When you have this big war of like 2 schools fighting the sorceress people and you, and at the end of it, Sid's just like, oh man, I can't believe I married her. And you're like, Sid, excuse me? You have the option to ask him, is like, the sorceress is your wife? Let's unpack that. And he doesn't tell you anything. He just goes like, yep, I can't believe me and that sorceress started this whole thing. That's all you get. That's all he says. You can't glean any more information out of him. What the heck? We're like halfway through the game, and the story is still essentially, we are soldiers for the school and we are following orders. What to do next. And I'm just kind of like, when's something gonna happen? Cypher is a character. I have mentioned him in a while, have I? Because he is wasted. he does that generic cliche thing where he's like, I'm jealous of you, so I'm gonna be evil with the evil sorceress. You find out that the sorceress is like being controlled by a real sorceress, the super sorceress, who's the real evil one. And she's actually not evil, she's your mom. Okay, well, she's not really your mom. She's like a caretaker. You find out that like all of you used to be together on this island, but you forgot because the GFs force you to forget when you bond with them. And once you find that out, Cypher's like, well, I still serve the I still don't like you. And you fight him a couple more times throughout the game, and then at the end you fight him. And he just goes home after you beat him, and then you continue to the final boss. Like, Cypher does nothing. He doesn't change. He doesn't change any other characters. There's not a moment between him and Squall where they like accept each other again or something. He just stops. I was like, whoa, this is so wasted. And then you go to space. So that happens too. This is the second game to go to space, technically, I think so. There's this whole big sequence in space. It really comes out of nowhere, like with a lot of things in this game. So you go to this ice area where they say this is where you gotta go to get to the city, and it's like, is this a secret? This is like an Emerald City kind of deal. What's this gonna be? And they're like, yeah, that's great. All right, we gotta go to this place next and that place next, whatever. And you do this because Renoa is in a coma. I forget how that happened, but she got hit hard. She's like in a bad spot. You gotta help her. Okay, this is where we gotta go to do this. Okay. You split up into groups and you go to the thing, and then all of a sudden you're just in this place, and they're like, yeah, this is where we go to space. And I was like, I don't know if I missed a detail along the way. I'm like, we gotta go to space? I wasn't ready for that. But Squall, at this point in the story, Squall is like, I really care about Renoa, but I still want to make it look like I don't. So you strap on the suit and you go into space, and there's a space station, and you explore that, and it's pretty cool. And you find out there's a sorceress on the moon who we have been keeping locked away for years. This is like this is the bad sorceress, but not the real sorceress enemy that we want to fight. Sorceress, her name is Ultimecia, like ultimate, like the true, final, real bad guy. She wants to possess, like, this sorceress to possess Renoa. Surprise, Renoa is a sorceress as well. So then there's like this thing where I should just die. I should give myself to the science so they can dispose of me because I can't be possessed by the true sorceress. It already happened with our mom. And then there's like time travel shenanigans too. There's this one girl I didn't even mention yet who can dip into people's minds and send them into the past, where you actually play portions of a totally different group of characters, which I don't even need to go into. They're cool, but like, this is getting out of hand now. I can't explain everything. That's another character that doesn't really amount to a lot. Like, she's this held in such high regard. Like, the sorceress is after her specifically. We have to protect her, but she's being protected by these people who we don't think can do a good job. We got to find them before the sorceress finds them. And then when you finally get to her in space as well, she just civils out. Nothing else happens with her for the rest. It's like, all right, got her. I guess let's kill the final boss. But a whole scene happens, which I think is like the best scene in the game, actually, where Noah gets lost in space. She's in a coma, she gets lost. They explain to you, you don't have a lot of time with the air, so you have to make sure you get her. Well, actually, you can't get her. And then Squall is like, no, I will get her because, well, I don't want to tell you why. I just really want to rescue Renoa. And there's this great sequence where you come together in space and you're like, we're gonna die, we're dead. But you use time travel to go back in time. I don't know how that helps, but somehow it helps. Trust me, I'm doing a terrible job explaining the story, but I swear it makes sense. I followed it better than 7, I really did. And the both of you are like out of air, drifting away, and you fall into this broken down ship where you can breathe, and you're like, oh god, this is great. Well, where are we? I don't know. Let's just watch the stars. And it's super romantic, but one of the best things happens. There's this theme that plays through the game whenever those two are on screen, and it's a nice song. But then, at this point, they put lyrics in the song. I am a complete sucker for when they do that. I love that. Whenever a game or a movie or anything surprises you with like, remember this song, this main theme that you've been hearing? There's actually lyrics, and they're good lyrics. I loved it. It's the best moment, and it's finally the moment where you're like, okay, they're gonna come together finally. Squall's gonna stop being an idiot. There's no one around to be embarrassed about. But he still kind of holds back. And Renault's like, can I have a hug, please? I almost died. This isn't even about like a relationship. I just want a hug because I should be dead and I don't know what to do or how to handle this. I need to feel alive. She literally says that. And Squall's like, we gotta go. Like, dude, come on. He's like a piece of crap. There's the line between Moody has problems of his own that he has to deal with versus like you are just being terrible as a human. And then you go through the door and there's an alien. There is a whole group of savage aliens who at this point random encounters are off because aliens just exist in the world and they run at you. It turns into like Dead Space. All of a sudden, Final Fantasy Dead Space. You are running from these aliens, you can't beat them. Well, you can fight them in a battle. If you beat them, they fall onto the floor, and they can get back up. And you're like, it's a whole thing of trying to figure out how to kill aliens. Meanwhile, all this other stuff just happened. What am I supposed to think about right now? It's got possession. It's got time travel. It's got memory wiping. It's got multiple protagonists switching between time. It has antagonists jumping from tier to tier till you get to the last one. You go to space. Oh my god. This is all like the second half, maybe like the last third of the game. The final boss was bad, and like I said, this game can be easily broken if you really know what you're doing. I knew what I was doing. I guess I knew I could have broke it, but I didn't want to spend the time grinding to do it. I didn't want the final boss to be not a fight either. But the final boss was a huge fight that I was not ready for. I don't know, I may have grinded too much. I didn't intentionally grind, but I did a lot of side quest stuff when I got the ship, like I said. I got the Ultima weapon as a GF, which is awesome. But I gained like 15 levels trying to get to him. Took too long, probably wasn't worth it. And now, because I was such a high level, all my enemies had more health and more attack and stuff. So the final boss was really hard. Really hard. Took many retries. The final try was 1 full hour. I think I started fighting the boss at like midnight. Figured I could just finish it off. And then I kept dying and I kept saying, alright, one more before I go to bed. And then it was like 3 a.m. I started the last attempt at 2 a.m. Went to 3. Oh my god. So remember in 6, they do this thing where you use all of your characters. It's not just your party. You throw everybody at you and it's really cool. In this, they do that again with all the characters together fighting the final boss. But only 3 at a time. And remember, you can only equip the GFs to those 3. So that means there's 6 total party members who help. 3 of them are going to be downright useless, and the other 3 will have all your powers. It's not worth it to spread, and it never was through the whole game. The game definitely does not want you to spread your powers around, but all of a sudden in the final boss, it expects you to, and it's randomly selected who gets chosen first. So you're going to be thrown in, it's going to be Squall, somebody good, and somebody bad. And then you're just like, we can't really even start this fight until you die. Like, I started attacking the other character. I was like, you're worthless. Just die so the next person can come in. What a bizarre way to change the ending, change the mechanics at the last second. That was bad. The final boss has like 4 forms, and each form is allowed to take away your magic. And I mean, if you have 100 of one thing, it randomly selects, and you might randomly lose that 100 of your thing, which in turn means you lose your stat boost for that. If you're using that to like increase your max health, one of my guys had like 10,000 HP down to 5,000 because the final boss took away that. It just happens over time, like in between attacks. You lost that, you lost that. I'm sitting here scraping by with everything I can. Gotta use protect on everybody. Gotta use triple so I can use 3 times the magic in one turn because I gotta go fast. And then you're using Ultima 3 times on the boss doing like 10,000 damage. I'm doing like shell, so we can defend from magic. I just lost shell. Okay, does anybody else have a shell? I gotta scroll through the pages of Magic. No, you have some shells. We can maybe like squeeze that in the end. It was so stressful. So stressful. And then the last form has an attack that somehow every time brought my HP to 1. So I had to spend time healing. And I forgot to even mention, if one of your party members falls, if you wait too long to revive them, they go away and get replaced by another player, right? But if you're only 3 left, because 3 of the other guys died, if one person dies and you don't revive them in time, they're gone. You only have 2. That's it. One of my attempts, I went down to 1 final party member, and I was just like using attacks because I didn't know what to do. I swear, like, the first thing I do when somebody falls is revive them. But even that was not fast enough. I don't know how I'm supposed to control that. I had haste, so I was going faster. There's a lot of like random nonsense with just the final boss. So too much. They tried to make it too epic, I think. It was not worth it. Didn't work out. The ending is pure surrealism. Like they go running through the white void, like from SpongeBob with that episode with Squidward's alone, and they're just running around and no, somebody's gonna get sacrificed. I don't know where are we? When are we? The ending is more confusing than 7, I thought. Definitely, because I'm not really sure what happened. I don't know if somebody made a sacrifice. But when the credits roll, there's like found footage, which is like my favorite cutscene in the game because it really does look natural. I think they use motion capture for the cutscenes in this game. Big advancement in the industry. Like, that was so cool to see for the first time, technically. And it's all them like at a party chilling, hanging out, and you see Renoa and she's like points to somebody off screen and it's Squall. So okay, we made it. Oh yay, we made it. I guess, is that it? And then it ends. That's it. This game is all over the place. It's confusing in the gameplay and the story, but I liked it. I really liked it at times. It annoyed me at others. I went into it thinking like maybe this is better than 7. A lot of people like this one. I don't think it is. Like, this game does a lot of cool things. It does a few things better than 7, but it doesn't do anything the best. It's just weird. It's the awkward middle child, because I hear, obviously 7's great. I hear 9 is really loved, and I hear a lot of hate for this one. This one's divisive, and I get it. I see that firsthand. I like it though. I do like it, but that's it. Final Fantasy VIII is good. It's good, yeah. Before we end it, we're getting into Black Friday at this point. So get ready for the deals. I'm waiting for Final Fantasy X to go on sale because they still don't have that. It's a good time to be thankful. I'm thankful for Final Fantasy. I'm thankful for the viewers at home. How about that? But really, friends, family, or strangers, anybody specifically who watches this show, it's just me rambling about an old games. These could be, I hope this one's not too long. I know that the 7 was like 40 minutes. I rambled a lot in this, so I'm gonna try to cut it down, but like, you've watched all of them up to this point, I'm thankful for you, because that's awesome. I do this just for fun. I send it to my friends and family and stuff. But really, if you watch it, that's awesome. So, happy Thanksgiving. And maybe I'll be back for Christmas. There might be time for one more game before next year. So I'll look forward to that. Number 9, the finale of the PS1. I can't believe we're already another console done so far. I'm gonna get some stuffing. Some leftover pie, pumpkin pie. Pretty much all other Thanksgiving food is not that great though, so bye.
Shall I be the one for you who pinches you softly but sure? If frown is shown, then I would know that you are no dream.